Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Tonight we're going to be looking at the Best American Comics 2006. Anne Elizabeth Moore was the series editor back then. This is the very first one, by the way. It continues to this day, I believe. And Harvey Pekar was the first guest editor. I have problems with a lot of these Best American comics collections, a lot of excerpts from graphic novels, so it's just like, it's like watching a scene from a movie. I want to see like a whole piece, and the original, this is the very first one. There's a lot less of that in this one. They went out of their way, I guess, to find just short stories, to let you know what the artist is like and the cartoonist is like, but not many excerpts. So this is probably the only issue I have, or edition I have, I should say. Love the graphic design of this. Really nice looking cover. The art is by Lily Carre here. And they're very substantial. It's a pretty fat book. And as you can see, this gold foil. It's all around a very nice book. Let's crack it open. Got some end papers here. And we have the title page. So this includes comics, anything published in 2004 and the first half of 2005, even though it says the 2006 edition. I guess that's how they do it. It gives them half a year to, go through all the stories and pick out what they want. We have the contents page, a preface by Anne Elizabeth Moore. She used to work for the Comics Journal. And an introduction from Harvey Pekar. I like how he says he's not usually into best of collections and awards, but he agreed to do this because he's been a champion of comic books, the sequential narrative since the 70s. So he figured this is a good cause. This is going to get comics out there to people who don't normally read comics, which I think these books do, probably. These are sold in bookstores. And his introduction is very odd, though. I mean, he has some good information, and then he gets into every single story in the book, and he kind of tells you the plot of it, as if he's reviewing it. So it's very weird, very just like perfunctory descriptions of each comic, not really giving you much information about like, oh, look how they use this in such a daring way. Sometimes he just tells you the plot of the comic, which I just realized is what my podcast does. But I expect better of Harvey Pekar. Yeah, I was kind of shocked by that. I was like, are you serious? You're really just going to tell us the plot of each comic? So here we go. We start off with Joel Pretty. This is from Superior Showcase. No, I'm not even sure what that is. This is The Amazing Life of Onion Jack. Apparently, Joel Pretty normally doesn't draw like this, but I guess he had a deadline, a very quick deadline. So he says, I'm going to draw like stick figure style. And I kind of like it. He's very good at it. And Onion Jack is kind of like a superhero. He's almost like an uber superhero. He lands on our planet in a rocket ship. A couple find him, and he's bitten by a strange glowing spider from a uranium mine. The doctor gives him an experimental mongoose serum. So it's almost every origin of every superhero he experiences. Later on, he gets hit by a lightning bolt, and a vat of chemicals fall on him, and mysterious cosmic rays bombard him. But strangely enough, it seems like his main superpower is that he's an incredible cook, even when he's an infant. And also, a Native American ghost gives him a magic ring at one point. This is hilarious. So when he gets all these powers now, he's like, oh, I guess I won't be a chef. It would be a waste of all these powers. So we see him being a superhero, fighting crime, and all very funny. And he's always trying to get away to the kitchen. And but then someone's like, Onion Jack, a guerrilla army is invading downtown. He's like, oh, dang it all. I can't cook. We see some other superheroes, the Mighty Wedge, and I guess he's on this super team with them. And this is World War II, so they're going to fight the Nazis. I really love this photo collage thing going on here. This is great. So almost every page is like a gag strip that kind of stands alone. They comment about the new superheroes of, like the 60s and 70s. And he gets older and older. And pretty soon he retires. And there's one silver lining to it, though. He says, I'm going to open up a little bistro in my retirement. They make fun of the gritty superheroes of the late 80s. I like this one's called the Blooderator. And we see Onion Jack's funeral. There's all these, half of the funeral is super people. Half of them are great chefs. Because I guess Onion Jack, in his retirement, did go on to be the world's greatest chef. Now, here's a story that we just looked at in the McSweeney's that Chris Ware edited about a month ago. So I'm not going to get into too much. It's Kim Deitch. It was made for that. Actually, I think this was done for Details magazine. I mistakenly said it was done for the New Yorker, but it was at Art Spiegelman's request. Art Spiegelman, I guess, was doing special comic editing for the Details. And it's a really excellent piece of comics journalism about the death penalty and how he actually saw a guy who did heinous crimes, saw him be executed. But then when he talked to all of his family and even his cellmates on death row, he gets this incongruous picture of a really great guy. At one point, he even took a knife for one of his jailmates. He took a shank for him. Very different for Kim Deitch. Very interesting, but really well done. I'd much rather see Kim Deitch use his amazing imagination to create a story, because he's one of the best yarn spinners in comics. But very interesting, very thought-provoking. Next, we have Anders Nilsson. This is from Dogs in Water, so this is an excerpt. But I have a feeling the whole graphic novel is this kind of nebulous thing, so you don't feel like you're missing out on anything. This is the Anders Nilsson that I like when he actually draws. He's really good. And then there's that Anders Nilsson where he just does those like really almost stick figures with photos behind him, which I do not like. But I'm glad they did this kind. This takes place in a post-apocalyptic world. It seems like this is our protagonist. And even though people are trying to kill him, he helps them. And he's just a total pacifist. This guy just tried to strangle him, but then I guess he was half dead from a plane crash, and and then passes out. He's dying, and he's totally taking care of him. This guy just tried to strangle him. The guy asks him to shoot him. He says, there's a gun under the seat in the plane. I'm sorry, it's a helicopter. And I don't know why it's so interesting. There's just this pipeline here. Just this random, it's almost like the stage drop for the whole little mini play we're watching. He can't shoot him. He can't do it. Then this other kind of kid shows up with a gun. And for some reason, finally, he now has the nerve to kill that guy who wanted him to kill him. And then he just puts the gun down and basically puts himself at the mercy of this boy with the machine gun. And the boy with the machine gun's like pointing this stuff. Is like basically, I think he doesn't speak the same language. And he's like, I want that stuff. He's like, what do you want? I'll give you anything. He's just reaching his backpack saying, I'll give you anything you want. And finally, he just wants his teddy bear. And he gives it to him, even though it was very dear to him. So just a strange character who's this kind of martyr. So I have no idea what happens before or after this. Though after reading this, I kind of want to get dogs in water now. Next we have Lily Carré. This is Adventures of Paul Bunyan and His Ox Babe. This is from her Tales of Woodsman Pete comic. This is a really good comic. It's Paul Bunyan and Babe, but Paul Bunyan is just seen as a working guy. You know, he has to get up every morning at 9 to knock those trees over. And him and Babe were on a lunch break. And, you know, we realize that Paul Bunyan, he's this great hero, you know, mythical figure of folklore. But he's not that happy because there's no girls his size. He's probably never going to find love. So basically he's complaining about his lack of love life. I guess when he has tried to kiss a girl, he finds it impossible to kiss him without getting her all wet. Because, you know, it's his big lips. He can't help but, you know, drool on them. Oh, and Babe talks, by the way, in this. So Babe's like his confidant. Really just kind of melancholy, kind of sweet, funny comic. And he has all these dreams about going to the big city. And Babe's like, you know, it's not really going to be different. You're still going to have the problems you have. He thinks the women in the big city won't mind getting wet because they're more cosmopolitan. And then the whistle blows and they have to get back to work. And Paul is kicking down all these trees. Kind of sad. Next we have David Lasky. This is from Arthur Magazine. This is a diary of a bread delivery guy. And I guess David Lasky is a bread delivery guy, or at least at the time was, in Seattle. So this is just him extolling the virtues of the Econoline van that he delivers bread in. It's kind of just that kind of autobio I really don't like. Just not very interesting. But I kind of like the art and how much he squeezes in here. I'm a fan for big sucker for lots of panels on a page. Oh, this is so good. This is a Ben Katchor strip from Metropolis Magazine. This is about the Goner Pillar Company. This guy named Goner, he makes a pillow for windowsills. And apparently it takes off. And, you know, in the past, people, you know, it's not comfortable just to stand in front of a window and look out at the world. But if you have one of these pillows, you can pull up a chair and lean against it, and for hours, it's as viewers are slowly drawn away from their television and internet. It becomes like a national pastime. Just people love sitting at their windows, watching their neighborhood. Television and DVD sales decline precipitously. Mr. Goner suddenly dies of mysterious illness. Congress places a high tariff on the importation of feathers, which are used in the pillows. The Surgeon General warns against excessive elbow use. Under the direction of Mr. Goner's son, who takes over the company, the factory turns exclusively to the production of foam rubber pillows for sofas and couches. So it almost implies that it's like this government plot. Like, they didn't like this. It's like, oh, this is killing the motion picture industry and the internet. But man, just only Ben Katchor could think of this. And interesting use of color. It's rare to see Ben Katchor in color. Next, we have one of Alison Bechdel's Dykes to Watch Out For strip. This is, I guess, is an excerpt because this is just one page out of probably a week, month-long sequence. So I didn't get much out of it. Never liked this comic. I like her drawing. She's a nice cartoonist, a good cartoonist. And, but yeah, this comic is just, not a fan. Next, we have a little comic that Joe Sacco did for The Guardian Online, the English newspaper. It's once again his comics journalism. This is really interesting. Complacency kills. So Joe Sacco was actually embedded in an American military unit in Iraq. And just showing how they just ruled the roads. These guys would drive on these highways. Any Iraqi car coming their way, they would force off the road, aim their guns on them. And Joe Sacco's right there. He's driving around with them, talking about how, their lives there on the base. I guess they have all the comforts of home. But of course, they're, constant danger. It's interesting how so many of them seem to really crave something to happen, which you'd think you wouldn't want. You wouldn't want anything to happen. I mean, you don't have to kill anyone. You don't have to get killed. But they sit around just hoping that one of these guys is an insurgent with a bomb or something. Just Joe Sacco's so good at this stuff. Really good journalism. Just taking their words, showing a very complex, interesting topic. Just really making it clear, like you're there. You feel like you were there. And look at this impeccable art. He's just so good. Yeah, if you're a fan of Joe Sacco's stuff, you'll dig this. Next we have La Rubia Loca by Justin Hall. This is from True Travel Tales. And this is based on a true story, but names are changed. But it's kind of an interesting story about this woman who's on one of those green tortoise buses. Kind of has a midlife crisis. She's at a low point in her life and just says, fuck it, I'm going to hit the road. So Green Tortoise is that kind of hippie bus company where they have tours all through Latin America. You camp out. They cook food for you. And here's our protagonist here, this woman with very short hair. She meets this woman. Her name's Helena. She's a Swiss German. And they hang out for a couple hours and really open up. And Sarah, our protagonist, she even admits to her, she's like, yeah, I might not be around that much longer. I promised myself if things are still this shitty in my life by the time I'm 40, which is 4 years away, I'm just killing myself. And this woman is just like, oh, Sarah. But this woman sounds like she has a lot of problems. Like her children were taken from her. They're back in Germany or Switzerland, wherever, in foster care. And then the next morning, they fall asleep on the beach. The next morning, Helena has been standing over her all morning because she's a insomniac. And she says, I was providing shade for you. I was making shadow. And she tells her about how she hasn't slept in days. And Sarah starts getting worried about her. Gets to the point where she even tells one of the bus drivers, she says, we should keep an eye on this lady. I mean, I think she's about to snap. And that's exactly what happened. Her behavior gets crazier and crazier. She's really deluded. And she still hasn't slept. Everyone else starts noticing her, how crazy she is. I mean, it's really blatant and obvious. Not a big fan of this artist, the art, but it tells the story okay. But I thought this was a really interesting story. And then, so she's just getting worse and worse. And then an element of drama is put into it. I don't know if this is true, but apparently if she acts up too much and the authorities see it and throw her in a mental institution, apparently in Mexico, you might never come out. So they have to go through all these machinations whenever they stop and put her up in a hotel room. They have to be careful because they don't want her to be captured by the authorities. They want to get her back to America. So they're trying to get to La Paz, which is a few days away, and get her on a plane back to San Francisco. All very interesting. It turns out that she starts having multiple personality disorder. And one of her personalities is a very trollopy woman, a very sexually free woman. And she just, one night she escapes and is just apparently having sex with all these guys in the park, all these strangers. So they have to go get her. And she just, it's amazing her degeneration. Like, it's pretty well delineated, pretty fascinating. She's really spinning off the rails. So, of course, everyone's frazzled. The bus drivers are going crazy. Sarah's going crazy. She can't sleep because she's got to keep an eye on her. Everyone in the bus is like, this woman's ruining the trip. This is funny. At one point, they realize she's just going to, they have to get her to the someplace. They tie her up and then put a sheet over her so nobody can see she's tied up. Oh, they're getting off of a ferry and they don't want the authorities to stop her. They all huddle around her so nobody can see her. But a federale does see her. And they're like, uh-oh, the jig's up. And then he just grabs the sheet and he says, "You're not supposed to take the sheets from the hotel. Move along." He doesn't even care that this woman's tied up. He just didn't like that they were taking a sheet. So they're really trying to get her to the airport. They've got to shoot her up with Valium and sedatives. They're not working. It's almost like they make her more wired. And finally, they get her to the airport. Then they're like, "We can't go into the boarding area with her because we don't have a ticket. Is she going to get on the plane?" But she does. Now we jump ahead a year later, and Sarah sees the bus driver, Perry. And they hug because they went through this, kind of traumatic experience. Turns out that Sarah is now pregnant with a child and doesn't seem like she's suicidal anymore. And she's working as a bus driver for the Green Tortoise Company. Because Helena told her, she said, even though she was crazy, she said, you got to have children. It just makes a full life. So even though Helena was crazy, she learned from her. Yeah, this art is really unappealing to me. This is pretty, not very good. Once again, guys, this is from McSweeney's. This is from the cover. Chris Ware's kind of history, comics, a history. And just all funny little gags, all going all the way back to cavemen drawing on the walls, ancient Greece, Stations of the Cross in the Middle Ages, Rudolf Topfer, just tons of stuff. Pinnacles of Civilization in Greece. Man, oh man, that sure was one heck of an orgy last night. Woo! Guess I'd better get down to brass tacks and finish up that dialogue on democracy before the senators get here. Then I'll sodomize my 12-year-old slave boy. I like the Sumer one, where it's, they didn't really have pictographic language, so we're not going to talk about Sumer. Bye. So we get 2 pages of that. Guys, this is the reason to buy this book. This is such a good story. This is Rebecca Dart, who lives in Canada. It's called Rabbit Head. And she's an animator, and you can tell by her style. I love her drawing, her cartooning chops. But on top of that, this comic does this thing I've never seen a comic do before. This amazing formalistic trick, kind of. So we see this rabbit guy. Let's just call him Rabbit Head. And he's making a grave, shoveling dirt onto a grave. And he gets on his steed, this weird, bizarre creature, and rides away. He spits, and his spit goes into like 2 little streams. Now, one of the streams hits this tree that he's riding by, and we split away to follow its progression. The other falls on the ground. Same thing. So now we have 3 narratives going on. Rabbit Head continues to ride his steed. One of the spit that hit the tree turns into this little guy. Her character designs are so great. I mean, I wish this. I mean, you couldn't animate this. Rebecca Dart even says at the end, one of the impetuses for the story, she wanted to write a comic that could only work as a comic. It couldn't be adapted into any other format. And I think she succeeded. So it turns into this weird little character who leaps away. The spit that fell on the ground turns into some kind of little bud, some little plant, and a pig comes up and starts sniffing it. The skinny character from the top, this kind of Venus flytrap rips its head off, bites its head off. Rabbit Head comes to a small town, and I guess it's down this huge cliff. So he pulls a hair from his steed's haunches, puts a magnifying glass on it. We see this little, like, kind of paramecium or amoeba, and it grows. Back to the pig. Pig eats that plant, which is now some kind of weird creature. It's growing into this weird, I don't know, eraser head baby. And it walks back to its brood, and they all suckle. One of his little baby pigs ingests that creature into himself, kind of like a parasite. Now, that one creature, I should make a name for him, the black wiry guy. The wiry guy, he's got no head, and the first thing he finds, he misses a skull, so he picks up a rock and puts it on his head. Now we have another split, because his skull is picked up by this flying creature and flies away. And pretty soon, an even bigger flying creature is in pursuit of this thing. Back to Rabbit Head, he expands that amoeba, which envelops him so he can roll down this cliff. I just thought that was such a weird, interesting idea. When he gets to the bottom, the amoeba just sloughs off, and he goes into the town. Meanwhile, a big boar sees the mama pig and her suckling brood, and I don't know why, he just starts trampling them. And he steps on the one with the parasite inside of it, and it makes it kind of poop out of him. Now we see another narrative. So that parasite is pooped out, and he kind of like coughs up this giant tentacle thing. This is crazy. I thought this was so amazing. I've never seen this done in comics. Okay, so the flying creature, the bigger flying creature kind of attacks him. He drops the skull. Now we look into the skull's eye socket, and we'll see what happens next time. So we have another narrative starting. Now that flying creature comes back and grabs the skull again. Back to the wiry guy. He's stumbling around because he's got a rock for a head. He sees a cactus, and he tries to make out with it. He thinks it's a woman, I guess, or a mate because of the arms. And, of course, he has all these needles in him. Meanwhile, Rabbit Head is in that town, and these kind of mean-looking guys come out. Looks like a Western. And it looks like they're fucking with him. So Rabbit Head, like, slaps one of them, and then they start mauling him. Back to the little piglet. The piglet's just wandering around, and he eats some kind of hallucinogen, and he starts tripping balls. God, this is all such good stuff. Even if this wasn't this amazing formalistic, format or device, just her cartooning is so good. I love her style. I would totally want something else by her. I don't have anything by her. Back to that little parasite, pukes up this thing, I guess almost like another parasite. And then, okay, I'm getting confused now. And then that parasite starts burrowing underground. And we see him, and he comes to this little door that's underground. Meanwhile, the thing that he coughed up now we see its narrative. And we see it kind of mutating. Okay, back to the inside the eye socket, we see a little house and these two little kind of bugs. And we see a whole little life progress. A little baby is born, these two bugs. It grows up. I like he's got a mohawk here. I guess he's a rebellious teenager. The flying creature has the skull again, and he drops it on his nest of chicks. I guess it was too heavy because it kills them all, and then breaks the branch that the nest is on. The wiry guy with the rock in his head is stumbling around all slapsticky, runs into a tree, the rock falls off, and now he's looking for something to put on his neck again. Rabbit Head is getting beat up by these bad guys, and then they chop the head off of his steed and continue to beat him up. I love this so much. And then the little piglet is totally tripping. We just see some really great imagery here. This really fun, imaginative shit going on here. The little parasite that burrowed underground, I guess that's his house, it looks like. Hey, he goes in the door. He's got a nice little apartment. Sits down at the dinner table and starts slicing his own arm up and eating it like little riblets or steaks. Now that thing that he coughed up is now turns into this kind of dog creature who just starts eating everything he sees. This little spider, this little, I don't know, sausage grub worm. Now that little bug family, the son grows up after getting his diploma, and he decides to leave the nest, the skull. And so now his solo narrative is now part of this. So it goes away, his narrative. And as soon as he leaves the nest, this baby flying creature, I guess the one that survived, he eats him. And then turns into almost looks like a phoenix or something, this beautiful, exotic looking bird. The wiry guy reaches into this tree stump, this hollow in it, and he pulls out this weird mutated fish, puts that in his head. I love that image. And it rots very quickly. It's just this disgusting fish mess. Rabbit Head is now senselessly dragged. This is I don't know, she's like the priestess of the town. And she commands them to chop his ears off. We continue to see the piglet tripping balls. Once again, some really groovy looking cool panels. The little parasite is now slicing open his own guts to eat his innards. And meanwhile, that dog creature is digging into the ground, and he breaks through to his apartment and grabs him. So now his narrative becomes part of that. That beautiful phoenix-like creature flies off right into power lines and drops the skull. I forgot to mention it picked up the skull. The wiry guy is attacked by these birds because he's got this rotting fish on his head. And he runs away, and the fish head is knocked off of him when he hits a tree limb. And then just right when the skull lands from the sky, it lands right in his head. So he's got his skull back. We see Rabbit Head they chopped off his ears, and they continue to beat him up and kick him. And they bury him up to his neck in the sand. The little piglet looks like he's coming out of his trip. And the dog, who just ate the parasite, is now kind of turns into this lump, this fleshy lump, and the pig runs into it. So now the narrative goes away. The wiry guy, it looks like his body kind of just heals over the skull. So now he's whole again. And it looks like he frolics away. He's happy. He's got his head back. And we see Rabbit Head without his ears. He's buried in the ground. And this thing comes out of the ground like a flaming... It looks like that dog thing. I was a little confused by this part, because we still see the dog thing down here. And he comes up and starts sniffing Rabbit Head. The little piglet starts biting that little dog's butt, and then the dog turns around and eats the pig. We see the wiry guy crawling on these electric lines. And I guess that flaming dog creature frees Rabbithead. He digs him out of the ground. And Rabbithead walks away with him. And that wiry guy comes down from the line. And it looks like, I'm not sure what happens here. I think Rabbithead breaks off a piece of him, his hand. Now we see the dog just continuing to eat everything in his path. And then he goes into this little cave, which goes up here because now the Rabbithead is approaching this little cave. And the dog eats Rabbithead too. But then a slit opens in his weird larva-like belly, and Rabbithead spills out. The other dog, the flaming dog that rescued him, pulls him away up to the grave and throws him into the grave that Rabbithead was digging at the very beginning. And then the kind of a coda to it. We see a map, an overhead map of every place we just visited, and we see where all these things were. This is the tree where that fish was inside. This is where the bird picked up the skull. This is where the pig was living with his mom. Here's the little town with the mean guys in it. Oh man, this story definitely requires, well, it doesn't require, it invites multiple viewings. Sorry I got into that so much, but I just found that story kind of revelatory. Here we have a one-pager by Ivan Brunetti from The Stranger. And this is just his, later New Yorker type style. Just a story about heartbreak and this artist guy who's just really missing this woman. And he drew it all. Everyone looks kind of like Mickey Mouse. Really nice checkerboard effect with the colors. Kind of like it. This next one is Jonathan Bennett. This is from Mome, the Fantagraphics anthology. Dance with Adventures. This guy really has chops. I mean, he can draw. It's just very, very skillful. But yeah, I did not like this story. It's kind of an autobiography type story with just this guy who notices a box of records on the street. And then I guess it's supposed to be kind of funny how there's another guy eyeing them and neither of them want to. They're all playing coy about it. They're being coy. Like, oh, wait, he's looking. Maybe I'll walk around the block. Not a big fan of this story. But, man, it's nice art. I wish he could get a better writer. Or just write a better story. Here's a little flashback to his childhood. So he gets the album he wanted. It's a Ventures album, of course. It's, yeah, pretty inconsequential. So now we do see an excerpt. This is a Jaime Hernandez, Day by Day with Hopi. But it is it's a short story within a, narrative. But Hopi keeps going back to this eyeglass place, even though she's picked out the lenses she wants, because she has a crush on the woman who works there, who doesn't seem very impressed with Hopi. But this is just basically Hopi being very cute and irascible. So I guess at this point in time in Love and Rockets, she's got a girlfriend. So she goes back to her apartment, and her girlfriend's there, and she even kind of admits to her, she's like, yeah, I got a crush on this. So maybe they have an open relationship, but she's like, yeah, I kind of have a crush on this lady. That's why I'm going to go back. And of course the girlfriend's all worried and just like, oh. This next one is very odd. It's Esther Pearl Watson. It's from Unlovable, and it's called Busted. And it's just it says Wayne is insane. And I don't know if she actually saw this or she just imagined this, but just the idea of this guy talking into his reflection in the school's high school's trophy case. And he's just rambling like a madman. And the narrator is like, comes up to him, and she realizes that he doesn't even know she's there. He's so lost in this like one-sided dialogue with himself and his reflection. And it's all kind of weird shit. He's talking about like bitches and women. Well, he calls them bitches. And as if he's like, I don't know, like he's hitting on a woman. He's just totally talking to her like, hey, baby, it wasn't what you think. Come here, baby. I'm hurting for you, baby. Very strange strip. Next, we have John Porcellino, Chemical Plant, Another World. This is one of his Diary of a Mosquito Abatement Man stories. This one was really interesting, though I think it would be way more interesting if John Porcellino could draw better. Because the way he describes this, I mean, he is good with his words. So just the word picture he depicts seems pretty fascinating. Where I guess once he got a job spreading his, mosquito killer chemicals at this huge, like, industrial plant. And it just sounds like this amazing, surreal science fiction setting. So he's driving through just spewing out his mosquito abatement chemicals. And there's even streets in there. So it's almost like this weird little city. They even have, the streets even have names like Progress Boulevard, Oxygen Avenue. And every now and then you can see a guy in a, in one of their suits, their hazmat suits. So one of them's riding a bicycle. Like, this is just such image. Like, his words actually do the imagery better than his drawings. But it just sounds like an amazing, surreal experience. That's sounds really great, actually. It's 2 a.m, but the whole thing is like lit up even brighter than day. And I like this. It's almost like this fantasia of him just being lost in this pipes, like a maze of pipes and all this, girders and ladders and catwalks. So once again, guys, I should apologize for reviewing this book so close to that McSweeney's book, because this is the third one from McSweeney's. So this is David Heatley. It's Portrait of My Dad. And we just looked at this. But suffice to say, it's a really good, all these little comic strips that make up a great portrait of his father. It just sounds like a real character. We got his resume, every job his father ever had. But like I said in that McSweeney's thing, not the best artist, David Heatley, but I do love how much he crams on every page. And he's just brutally honest. There's this one here where he has this embarrassing memory. You know when you're a kid, you just do fucking weird shit? So one day, he was like, "Good morning, Dad." He says, "Hey, come in and snuggle with me." And for some reason, in a black man's voice, quote unquote, he just thought it was funny to look up his dad and say, "I'm gonna hump you." And the father just says, "Why would you say something like that?" And young David Heatley's like, "Why did I do that? Why did I say that?" So I'll flip through this quick since we just looked at it. Yeah, that McSweeney's, it was a really great book. So if you're interested, there's a video. It's about a month ago. I would recommend checking it out. It's a pretty sweet looking book. Here we have Lloyd Dangle. This was in The Stranger, and this is kind of comics journalism where a street level view of the Republican National Convention. This was in New York City in 2004. And it's just basically that. He sees the protesters in the park. He had to really crank this out because he wanted it to be timely. He had to get it in for the next weekly issue of The Stranger. I've definitely read better Lloyd Dangle. You can tell by the art, even it's rushed. But it's definitely interesting. It's some pretty good comics journalism. Just him being there, on the street. Oh, this is, wait. Oh, this is an artist named Hobb. This is called The Supervisor. And this is just kind of a weird little autobio thing about a terrible boss or coworker. Next, from Zap, Gilbert Shelton doing a Wonder Warthog story, probably the first time in a while. And God, his chops. I mean, this is 2005 around. Probably this came out. Just such good cartooning. And, I mean, we've looked at Wonder Warthog before. I'm sure you know about Wonder Warthog. He's a superhero parody created in the 60s. So we see Filbert Desinex, his alter ego. And he's at a work party, office party, and the boss fires him. So he's just like gonna pull a Wonder Warthog on him. And when he rips off his clothes, he's just Filbert Desinex. He's like, what the hell happened? I didn't turn into Wonder Warthog. And so he goes to a psychiatrist. And we actually see a little history of Wonder Warthog. You know, he's just talking about how he could always turn into this character, but now he can't. So he realizes that the psychiatrist is his nemesis, super psychiatrist. I love this how it says, see the Texas Ranger, October 1962. So he's hearkening back to characters that that were 30 years old. I like this little scene where he's talking about his problems, and the psychiatrist looks at us, the reader, and goes, cuckoo. And Filbert looks over at him real quick. God, this is just such good drawing. He hasn't lost it at all. I mean, in fact, this might be even better. So he tries to turn it into Wonder Warthog. Once again, doesn't work. So after he leaves, the psychiatrist calls up the authorities. This is 2004, so this is 4 years after, 9/11 or 2005. So he totally turns into a social satire where this vigilance committee, anti-terrorist, homeland justice contractors confront him. And basically are like, you're a terrorist. And then it gets really odd how they're like, oh, before we kill you or interrogate you, we're going to make a pornographic movie with you. So they put a kind of a girl's pig head on him. And then they have this African wild pig, this warthog. And they shoot it up with aphrodisiacs. But then Filbert Desinex says, Wonder, is that you? And he says, yeah. When I reverted to nature, things were great. And, but now I have no superpowers because I lost my costume. Without the costume, I don't have any powers. So they captured me. And Filbert Desinex remembers that he has a little shrunk down Wonder Warthog costume. He gives it to him. Wonder Warthog leaps into Filbert Desinex's body. It's so funny how much this looks like Hunt Emerson, but of course vice versa. Hunt Emerson got a lot from Gilbert Shelton. And Wonder Warthog's back. Look at this great, all these sound effects. And he just fucking rips all these guys limb from limb. And as he's walking away, he realizes, as he's changing into his Filbert Desinex identity, a chicken sees him. He says, he saw me change into my secret identity. And I thought he was going to kill him, but he says, you must become my sidekick. Do you have any superpowers? And the chicken says, I can pick up very small objects off the ground with my mouth. It still makes me laugh out loud. That's funny. There was a lot of good jokes in there, but I can't read everything because this is a fat book I got to get through. But very funny comic, beautifully drawn as you can see. Just look at this. It's so good. It's like all those years he was inked by Dave Sheridan and Paul Mavrides. It's like, I don't know, it's almost like he absorbed their talents for cross-hatching and crazy amount of lines. Next we have Olivia Schanzer. This is from the High Horse Omnibus. A lot of comics seem to be taken from that anthology. I don't really know what to think about this. I don't think I like it. So this is called Solidarity Forever. And I guess it doesn't make a good point about she's making a commentary on about how unions don't have any power anymore, how they're kind of impotent. So basically, this drug dealer, Outlaw Mike, has a run-in with Fun Bum, and he tries to get the bums to unionize, but it doesn't work because the company just says, we'll give you a few things, a few concessions, and they're like, okay. Next, we have an excerpt from Alex Robinson's Tricked, which is a graphic novel he did, and not a big fan of this, though. This doesn't seem kind of interesting, this graphic novel, but not that interesting. So basically, it's an excerpt, so I'm not going to get into it too much. It's like watching a scene in a movie, right? But suffice to say, it's about a guy who he owns a restaurant with his boyfriend, and the daughter that he abandoned years ago returns, and it's the first time he's seen her. So of course, it's very awkward. I never read that Box Office Poison comic he did for like 20 years. I never wanted to. I'm pretty sure I don't like it. I think I've read like pages here and there. But this actually seems pretty well written, pretty intriguing. And I wouldn't mind reading this. And the art is more palatable to me than that Box Office Poison art. Next we have another excerpt. This is Jessica Abel from her La Perdida graphic novel. Not a huge fan of Jessica Abel, but I really like her sketchy art in here. This is some good-looking stuff. Basically, it's about this character. I don't think it's Jessica Abel. I don't think it's autobio. She's in love with a drug dealer. She's living in Mexico. She's an American. And she falls in love with a Mexican drug dealer who basically uses her. He's not a very good guy. I do like this art, though. Kind of reminds me of someone, but I can't think of who. Next, we have Seth Bachman drawing a comic for Teresa Turner and Lee Brownhill. Now, these two women, they basically work for like charities and the UN. They know all about Africa. And this is a really good, once again, comics journalism piece from World War III Illustrated about the Kenyan women in the 90s protesting against the dictator and also the energy companies that the dictator has cozied up with. And I thought this was really interesting. Of course, the dictator has these brutal police, and they're trying to break up their demonstration. They're having a hunger strike. And they're about to shoot this young man. And so one of the ladies takes her clothes off. And basically, it's this naked curse. So in Kenya, it's a powerful curse for a woman to like show her vagina to you. Well, any kind of nudity, but definitely the vagina. The women are the creators and sustainers of life, and so have the power to revoke the lives of offending males. That's what they believe. So it actually, these soldiers with guns run away, and they use this technique a lot. And we find out about the whole struggle there, about how when they discovered oil in Kenya, of course, a few people got really rich, but most people, their lives went into the toilet. Child mortality, infant mortality rates went up. And just pollution everywhere. People lived off of subsistence farming and fishing, and all that got, shat on. So it's amazing, though, against this, dictatorship, that these people actually won. Oh, and a lot of it was these old women. Like, old women really have power in this country. They even, took over Chevron plants. It's just amazing. It's really heartening. Their whole, that naked curse thing actually became a trendy thing throughout the world, where women protesting the oil companies anywhere, even in, California, they take off all their clothes and make peace signs by laying down in shapes, And we see more about the struggles of some of these guys, these Kenyans. Oh, I'm sorry, the Nigerian oil workers. They took over an offshore oil rig. They just took it over. And the Nigerian Navy was about to overtake it. But the unions all stuck together and said, we'll shut down all production in Nigeria if you guys use force. So it actually ended peacefully. So kind of an inspiring comic. It's amazing that we can't, we don't have to deal with dictators, shooting people when they go on strike. At least not yet in this country. We used to. It's so weird how unions can't really seem to do anything in this country. I'm a total pro-union guy. I'm in a union, but it's like we really don't have that much power. And then she kind of predicts that, like, I'm sure, now that these old women are considered terrorists, they were labeled terrorists because they did use some force sometimes. This rebel group. Now, the war on terror, these authors predict that George Bush is going to move in with military force. So it's kind of like the unknown oil war. Everyone was talking about Iraq. Very enlightening. This is so odd to me. So this is Rick Geary. This is from the Comics Journal Special Edition, those big square-bound things they were putting out annually for a while. I have a lot of them. They're really good. But this is Rick Geary, Recollection of Seduction. And I've never seen him do anything like this. This is just like a straight kind of comic. No magical realism or absurdism or surrealism. And it's basically autobio, even though he changes the names. And it's just about, which I can totally relate to this, like the time in your life when some amazing woman that you always had a crush on, and one night they're just totally coming on to you, dropping hints like so thickly, and you're just kind of like, oh, okay, I gotta go now. And then you think about it a few years later, you're just like, don't. I've definitely done that. I was really clueless. It didn't happen often because I was never very attractive. But every now and then there were some girls. And I look back and I was like, oh, you fucking moron. Next we have Tom Hart. This is from Hutch Owens' Unmarketable. This is the executive hour. This is the first solo story of the CEO, Dennis Werner, who's Hutch Owens' nemesis. And this is almost like a little character sketch about how he loves getting up early, getting to work, and that, without the unwashed masses who work for him, ruining everything. But then as the day goes on, he gets more and more pissed off because he has to see these people, his lessers, I guess, It's, I'm not sure, well, I definitely don't like this art as much as the early Tom Hart. Tom Hart had this amazing, loose, sketchy, goofy style. And this is, it's like he tightened it up a little, and I don't like it. It doesn't look as good. But it's not bad. I definitely kind of like his cartoony style, but I liked it more. And then as the day progresses, he gets off work, and then he just gets blotto. And he has to, I guess the janitor at his office died, and he was going to give the eulogy. And he's so drunk, he pukes in the coffin, the open coffin. Next, we have Kurt Wolfgang, and this is from Mome, the Fantagraphics anthology, Passing Before Life's Very Eyes. And we see this old guy, and he dies in a hospital. We see his, soul, looks like a little ghost, and it basically starts reliving his life, visiting all of the moments of his life, traveling backwards through time. Kind of like this art, the single color. Well, I guess it's two colors, sorry, red and yellow. And back in time, he's getting younger and younger. He's visiting himself throughout his life. He's a little baby now. It seems to jump around though, because then I see, oh, maybe this is his father. He's actually going back before he's born. Because his father's, it looks like he's in World War II. But then he realizes that the timeline isn't correct. He starts talking to us. He said, my mother passed away by the time we heard Hitler on the radio. And we already lived in this different apartment. I like this how he sees a dream he had every night as a little boy where he's flying around. He can see it. That would be nice if on your deathbed you got to see things like that. And then like his boyish self basically pops up and starts talking to him. And he explains it to him. And it tells him like, yeah, when you die, your body basically releases serotonin and endorphins, which creates a little film to watch while your body's being yanked from its body because it's a very unpleasant thing. So, but he does realize, he's like, yeah, you're right. This timeline's kind of messed up. And so things get weirder and weirder where they're bees, which obviously they weren't. They're a vaudeville team. So it's just going haywire, his memories. They're on a desert island together. They're boxing. They're puppets. They're Mickey and Donald. And then I do like this ending, though. He says, the old man ghost says, so what do we do? Just sit around and wait for everything to fade to black now? And the little boy who knows everything, he says, actually, it probably doesn't fade to black. More than likely, things just sort of... And we get a whole white page here. I love that. The Void. This is really good. This is Portland cartoonist Jesse Reclaw, and he's a pal of mine, so this is going to be biased. But even if he wasn't a pal of mine, this is really nice stuff. This is this came out as a mini comic, Couch Tag number 2, and basically it's this is really good autobio. It's just by the numbers autobio, like he's just recounting his life using the basically structural format of every cat he has as a child. So we see Jesse growing up, moving to all these different places, and all the cats he had. So, you know, Black Star gets its own little chapter. This is this cat here. And I love his drawing. It's just, I mean, just very, just perfect. Perfect little cartoony style. Black Star basically was run over by a car, so the mother found another black cat and just lied to the kids. Even though it was way bigger. So his sister, Jesse's sister, thought it was a shape-changing cat. She's like, he can just make himself bigger. Next we have Frosty. And this is interesting. We always see commentary from the mom and the dad, or maybe sometimes the sister and the dad. And the dad is just kind of this cynical prick. Everyone else just seems kind of nice. And he's always like saying some like kind of sardonic, cynical thing about these cats. So we get a little bio of these cats because, you know, every cat has a different personality. But what the real like interest in the strip is just seeing Jesse grow up and seeing his parents change. The dad definitely changes for the worse. They were basically hippie parents. And, of course, the 70s and the 80s came. They kind of became more affluent. So they're always moving. And every time they move, they get new cats. And they're constantly upwardly mobile. So they live in a trailer at the beginning. Then they get a nice house. And then they get a nicer house in a better part of town. Here's the triplets. All these logos are really well done, too. I like these logos. He gives them all a different one. And if you're, I like cats. I think they're cute and pretty, but I'm not a cat person. I imagine if you were a cat person, you'd fucking love this comic. I liked it a lot, and I'm not even a cat person. Because really, the real interest for me is just watching the father change and becomes more of a drinker, becomes a really angry drinker. Look at this great logo there. Mischief. That's the name of one of these cats. This cartooning is just so like, you know what I mean? It's not like doing crazy stuff. It's just like, but it just looks great. It's just like perfect. Very exact. Talking about all a lot of it's like nostalgia for when you're a kid growing up in the 70s, you know, playing with Star Wars figures, playing that game where you'd have to jump from the sofas because the floor is lava. We used to do that. It seems like, I don't know what happened in the Reclaw family, but they had bad luck with cats. So many of these cats get run over. Like, they really go through a lot of cats. Here's Puddin'. The father even says, your cats always die. This cat's name is Gene. And he's just like freeloader. So all these cats are, you know, Jesse and his sister pretty much love all these cats. They're really into these cats. So the father gets worse and worse. He starts like just destroying things in the house. He gets possessed by these rages and just smashes things in the house, like alarm clocks, telephones, the sofa. It doesn't seem good, this situation. He's really good at drawing cute kittens, too. Confused cat. Confuse a cat. His father's the kind of father who, like, he doesn't like a cat, so he drives to the next county and drops it off. We got Tiger, we got Boots. Jesse starts getting into comics as a teenager. And little Boots sits in his lap while he reads stacks of comics. That is just so cute, him poking his head up from under his comic. And we see the family conflict really, like it's all about the cats. But the way he sneaks it in, just the family drama is really deft. I'm not a big fan of autobio stuff, as I've said many times in this channel, but this is some really good stuff. And by, you know, the last strip here, Jesse's in college. He just visits home, sees the last remaining cats until they're all gone. It seems like they all run away or get run over by cars. Oh, guys, I'm sorry. Once again, this is from McSweeney's 2. Linda Barry's 2 Questions. Just a really inspirational comic about just trying to relearn the joy of drawing the way you knew when you were a kid. And people lose that. That's why, you know, almost every kid drew. And then you get to a certain age where only the good ones keep going. Most people stop drawing. They're just like, I'm not good. And she basically, this comic is telling us, fuck that. The 2 questions are, is this good or does this suck? And, you know, when that starts taking over, the joy of drawing is lost. So that's how I'm kind of glossing over it, because like I said, I just looked at this a month ago in the McSweeney's book. But great comic. I love Linda Barry's like page layouts in here. They're just great designs. Every page is like this great design. Oh, and this is a wonderful Robert Crumb piece from Zap. The same Zap that Wonder Warthog was in. And this one started in 1992, finished in 2004. And this is just total autobio. It's R. Crumb talking about his young self when he was a young man, still lived with his parents after high school. He loved just walking through the streets at night, sometimes by himself, sometimes with his brother Charles, and just thinking, you know, existential thoughts and philosophy and self-pitying thoughts of how he couldn't get a girlfriend. But man, look at this illustration. This is some really beautiful R. Crumb stuff. We see his dad here. So he's pretty much a wastrel after he graduates high school. And his dad is just kind of disgusted by him and Charles. He's just like, you guys aren't real men. So here's him and Charles walking through the streets at night. Just kind of their kind of sad lives, but I don't know. They just basically talk have these heady discussions about philosophy, about art, about what's our purpose in life. God, look at this drawing, though. This is so beautiful. R. Crumb describes a kind of a lucid dream he had after his brother killed himself in 1992, after Charles killed himself. And it was like he was kind of up in heaven. Everyone was in robes. And Charles turned around. He was his most handsomest, radiant self. Which, if you saw that Crumb documentary, he obviously wasn't near the end of his life. They went through a little religious phase where they tried out churches and religions. So they went to this black church. And I love this description where, they're like, grew up like kind of Catholic boys, where Mass is just this boring, quiet, solemn ritual. And of course, this is like in the Blues Brothers, everyone's getting really into it. And at one point, this one woman says, we gotta save these two poor lost white boys' souls. And everyone gets really excited that they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna save their souls. And he says, seeing these middle-aged women rolling around the floor, he felt no religious fervor, only acute embarrassment. That's funny as hell to me. He talks about his grandmother, who's just a total racist bigot. Terrible. And every now and then, Charles would bring his black friend by, and it was always just horrible. She'd say this terrible shit. If you have any interest in R. Crumb, even if you don't have any interest in R. Crumb, this is a great nonfiction. Just the relationship. The mother's on amphetamine. His mother was on amphetamines, prescribed by a doctor. And she was just a maniac. Just verbally abusing her husband constantly, who just took it. He would just be like, that's bullshit. Leave me alone. She would scratch his face, and he would just take it. He wouldn't fight back. Maybe it was a cry for help, Robert thinks. But God, the mother sounds terrible. And now we flash forward a little. He finally leaves home after he almost contemplates suicide. He attempts suicide, but not really. He chickens out. Then he moves to Cleveland, but once again, he still walks the streets, this time now with his roommate Marty Pals. Then later on, he's in San Francisco, still did the same thing. And he's in, his feelings of alienation and self-pity were still there. But then the last panel says, guess what? Finally, decades later, I got over it. He's not walking the streets no more. So that's it, guys, except for, this is really good. Contributors' notes and 100 distinguished comics. So they give us a little biography of the artist. And then, I love this. Every artist kind of gives a little background behind the story that they contributed. These are all really interesting, too. I wish every anthology did this. I guess some artists don't like to talk about that stuff. R. Crumb even admits he doesn't, but he does anyway. He gives them a little background. And then we have 100 distinguished comics, which basically all these other comics from that time period that didn't make the cut. These are almost always like art comics. Like you're never going to see like a Batman comic in any of these. But on this list, there were some like, Alan Moore superhero stuff. Paul Chadwick's Concrete, which you'd never see in one of these best of. Shaolin Cowboy #2. So this was kind of interesting, a Hellboy story. But mostly it's art comics, you know. Pete Greg Russell opera adaptation. Eric Powell, the Goon. So it's kind of interesting seeing this little... This is what the list that the series editor sent to Harvey Pekar, and then he had to pick 30 stories. And these are the ones, I guess, that didn't make it. End papers. And that's it for the Best American Comics 2006, the inaugural edition of this series. Hope you guys like looking at it. Like I've said before, these kind of anthologies are problematic to me. The excerpts. Also, I really don't think Harvey Pekar is a very good editor, to be honest. He has some suspect tastes in my book. I think the guy doesn't read comics anymore. He doesn't really know what's out there. So, I don't know. But I think like Chris Ware's McSweeney's book was way more impressive. He seemed to know more like who's out there, who are the really good artists out there. But overall, a pretty damn nice anthology. And some of the stories were stunning, and that's why I can never get rid of it, even if I, thought it wasn't that great. Like that Rabbit Head by Jessica Dart is just phenomenal. So, hope you guys like looking at it, and I hope to see you next time here at the Herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.